I just introduced myself for the first panel discussion. I'm Zoe, and I'm happy to be back here on stage with Lars, co-founder and CTO at Almanak. Hey, Lars, all good?
All good, thank you. Hey, everyone, good to see you all. If this is your second Agents Unleashed event, you might have seen me on the last one. My name is Lars. I'm co-founder and CTO of Almanak. I have a background mainly in AI. For the last 7 years, I have been building out many AI machine learning use cases in varying industries, all the way from healthcare to international trade. And over the last 4 years, I've been applying that in the crypto space. It's a super exciting field. And yeah, happy to talk about it more today.
Amazing. Thank you, Lars. We had like a quick chat outside, so I really look forward to continue this conversation, and especially a profile I really like to see within Web3, like the core experts from AI, machine learning, seeing the trend or really the opportunity to merge these two technologies. And I must say it's not really a trend because it's there to stay, right? It's a movement. It's really the biggest use case also from my perspective that can create user adoption. So explain us maybe a little more why you co-founded Almanak. We also had Michael on stage earlier here as co-founder, and specifically in DeFi with your expertise in AI. Why did you see, okay, Almanak really wants to revolutionize AI agents within DeFi?
Right. I think 2 reasons. I think the first one being DeFi is, as was discussed on the panel just now, it's one of the only kind of verified use cases of crypto that at least I use day to day. I know many of you do as well. So I'm not going to talk too much about that. But I think the second one is it just came very naturally to us. We were in the risk space before this. So we were mainly assessing the economic risk of the usage of different DeFi protocols. So we would simulate them, doing agent-based simulation. Yeah, it was a very natural progression for us to kind of move away from how do we do risk and how do we prevent people from losing money and dApps from collapsing to, okay, that's all nice, but now that we've established like a secure baseline for DeFi protocols, can we allow these agents to also make money? And I think that's where, this was a very natural progression for us to kind of move into that space. Yeah.
Great. That sounds like a very natural and very good road to take for a company. For some of you guys here in the audience, actually, who of you is using agents in DeFi already? Or maybe specifically some products on Almanak? Yeah, okay. Okay, that's not a bad sign, because after these conversations and all these panel discussions today, hopefully you are more open to actually use these products especially. So let's talk a bit more of the rise of agents in DeFi or financial agents. There are like 2 trends that can impact this, and maybe you can explain a bit more why actually these 2 trends, like the automation in financial markets, right? It's like a big trend, of course, within DeFi, and AI with quantitative reasoning. So the AI also becomes more smarter. These are very important 2 trends that can actually support the rise of AI agents in DeFi. How are you using these trends? And maybe you can explain a bit more of specific scenarios that you have seen this opportunity being beneficial to Almanak.
Right. So I think the rise of AI agents, I think there's 2 things to thank. Obviously, first one is the rise of ChatGPT and LLMs, but I want to focus less on that because I think that's really the spark that ignited the fire of agents. I think specifically for DeFi agents, there have been 2 trends going on that have given rise to the possibility for agents to even exist. And you mentioned both of them, the first one being financial automation. So financial automation is, it's been going on for 2 decades, probably longer. And I showed a chart the other day where you can see the amount of automated transactions happening in financial markets has been increasing over the years. And I think it kind of peaked in 2012. And ever since, if you look at all the transactions being done in financial markets, over 90% of them are no longer done by humans clicking a button, but they're done by algorithms that are rebalancing or they're making a trade. This is one trend that has been going on, and it's also in DeFi these days. If you look at DeFi, we see increasing automation across different chains, different platforms, different protocols. So that's trend number one. And then trend number two is AI rising, and essentially the quantitative reasoning powers of LLMs, right? So we now see models that they can reason about specific financial questions, or they can, if you give them some help, discover some alpha in a data set. Like these are, these two trends combined allow for the existence of agents. And I think a lot of projects might be abusing kind of the name agent in that sense. They belong to either the AI category, they're like purely LLM based, they're purely, okay, I can talk to this LLM and it will make a trade for me if I ask it to do so. Or they're more like financial automation based, where they just codify a strategy and then they run it. And then that's, more in the financial automation section. But there's like this intersection, which I think is like the Goldilocks zone, where a lot of magic is going to happen very soon. I don't think we've really truly seen the power of that just yet, but I think it's coming very soon.
All right. So this already also, defines maybe in financial agent also more to replicate or augment tasks of quantitative analysts, right? This is also, I think you talked about this before. Is this something, but maybe you can explain a bit more how financial agents can actually augment the work of that's actually still being executed by humans?
Right. Yeah, if you think about DeFi agents, what's their goal? Essentially, their goal is to make money. And then we look at what is the closest kind of person that we can find, like human that we can find, or a role that we assign to humans. And that's actually quants, right? So the sole role of quants is to try and find alpha and then codify that into a strategy, test that strategy, see if it works. And if it actually makes them money, they end up deploying it, run it, and then make money, right? So that would be the human equivalent of a DeFi agent. And I think that's actually where we're going to see the most changes happening. I don't think we'll go straight from having a human do everything to having an agent do everything. I think it's going to be more phased, and there's going to be a human in the loop at the beginning, but more and more parts of kind of the quant workflow are going to be either sped up or completely automated with the use of AI agents. Yeah.
And let's dig a bit deeper into this. Can you walk us through this workflow? Maybe for some people that don't know what a quantitative analyst is doing or are not using DeFi agents yet, like step by step, and what's being replaced also step by step in your view?
Right. Yeah, we have a few quants that we employ at Almanak as well, and it's nice because we can use that as like a baseline. It's like, okay, this is the quant workflow. How can we automate this and make this better? What's the first step for a quant? A quant is always hunting for alpha, right? So they go around, they try and find data, maybe data that not everyone has access to. It's a little bit different in DeFi, right? Because most of the data is publicly accessible. So hunting for alpha is easier, even if you're not, some quant at some big Wall Street fund. Like there's still a good probability that you can actually hunt for alpha and find it. And then once you have found something that you feel like just hasn't been discovered yet by very many other people, you go ahead and build a strategy around it, right? So you write a strategy that executes and capitalizes on the alpha that you found. Now, usually you don't just want to then, after you've done that, run it and just see, okay, we'll see if it makes money. You actually want to test it. You probably made some mistakes in it. Maybe there's a zero somewhere too many, and you don't want to have that come out when you're actually running the strategy with real money. So you test it. Traditionally, quants do back tests, so they look at historical financial data and then they kind of run the strategy over that. You can also make use of simulation, where you take a strategy and you project it out into many different futures, and then you see in how many of these potential futures do I end up making money. This is what Michael described earlier. Once you're happy with that, you deploy it, and then you just monitor it to see, is this thing actually making me money, or, is there another place that I can make more, right? Or at some point, maybe your alpha might decay because, in DeFi, we can kind of see what's going on. So at some point, maybe other people will capitalize on what you're doing, and then, the opportunity will kind of disappear. So that's kind of the quant workflow. And then where AI kind of comes in is you can look at each of these steps and see like, okay, can AI help me find alpha, right? Well, potentially it can. But for that, you need some kind of quantitative reasoning to be embedded in this model, right? So you need to give it access to data. It needs to be able to read from the wider DeFi ecosystem and be able to spot different opportunities and be able to weigh them against each other. This is something that AI is amazing for, because it's just able to go through so much more data in just so little time, right? It's something that a quant cannot necessarily do. So that's one area that there's a lot of potential for AI to kind of come in, and agents to help assist the quant there. And then the crafting of the strategy around that. I mean, we've seen a lot of, I was looking at Coinbase's agent kit yesterday or something. Very interesting, like using intents, you can translate an intent. Let's say I want to deposit this amount of ETH into Aave. It translates that into an action that it can actually execute on chain. And so we're already seeing, strategy creation being automated and made easier through the use of AI and LLM. So this is another step in the process where I feel like there's a lot of real change happening today, and it's like super exciting to see that playing out, because this is what we've been betting on, right? Like we kind of saw this coming, and it's playing out. So it's exciting stuff. Yeah.
Very cool. Thank you for walking us through there. And especially also, we discussed it in the panel beforehand, that there's a lot of room for efficiency, right? Or creating or taking over these tasks, which on the other hand can also be like a risk, right? Not only an opportunity. So with your expertise, I would like to hear a little bit, what of these scenarios that you maybe can see that are coming up, or you have already seen when we look at the walkthrough or like the workflow of a quant, that you would categorize as a risk for the financial industry or an opportunity?
Right. I'll try and name one for each. I think maybe to start with the risk, I think one of the big risks is the centralization of AI, but more specifically, the centralization of AI with very strong quantitative reasoning abilities. There is a risk that all of the high quality data that will give LLMs the power to do exactly this reasoning is going to end up with the firms that have been hoarding all of this capital for themselves already, right? So AI is by nature very centralized. Collecting data is a very centralized effort, and we just see that in the AI space, the most competitive models are just being developed by centralized entities. There's a very big open source community that is pushing on the side, but even for them, like if we look at Llama 3 by Meta, even that data isn't public information. So while the model is public, the data isn't. And I think that in the case where we're talking about making money, this can be a huge risk that not everyone is going to get access to these models, because why would I share that, right? Like if I have a model that is able of doing perfect quantitative reasoning, why would I share that with you? I'm not incentivized to do that. I'm just going to use that to make strategies for me and make money for myself, right? Like, so that's one of the big risks that I see. One of the big opportunities, and where I see still a lot of work to be done, is in the account chain and protocol abstraction. This is very hard. So traditionally, if I wanted a program to make a transaction for me, I had to understand on a low level how the EVM works and how I can craft a transaction and how to figure out how to deal with gas. We're abstracting that away, right? So we're putting interfaces in front of that can help us with that. But there's the ecosystem is huge. There's so many chains these days. I thought there's 117 layer 2s on L2Beat right now. If I need my agents to integrate with all of them, that's a huge effort that we need to drive. Same with protocols, right? Like my agent might not care about the underlying DEX that it uses. It just wants to swap one asset for the other and get the best execution. But to index all of the existing DEXs on all of the different chains, that's a huge effort. And I think there's a big possibility for AI to kind of help us with that, and do automatic indexing of these and make smart contracts, turn them into APIs and allow agents to discover them and trade on DEXs that we've never heard from before. So I think there's a big opportunity there, and I see there's some work being done there, but we need a lot more projects to kind of jump into that space and help out with that. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you for mentioning both of these scenarios. And maybe for the risky one, we discussed it earlier as well. Maybe we are more open to implement some of these verifiable solutions, right? To overcome and even offer this like to the big corporations to open source their models, but then have it secure private or verifiable in private. And then on the other hand side, you nicely described how AI or like overall these agents can abstract the complexity in our Web3 space. Last question for you, because we have more panel discussion here to go. With your expertise, thank you for, first of all, for sharing all of this. What's coming next for Almanak that the audience should know about? Any exciting milestones?
We're working on a lot of things, so it's hard to choose. Actually, it's not hard to choose one. We have a very exciting event coming up. We're actually releasing a big announcement tomorrow, but I can give you somewhat of a sneak peek today. So Almanak is coming to Legion. Legion is a platform that helps projects to bootstrap their communities. We are going to be the first project on Legion and essentially being paired with very high quality users and community members that can help us grow, help us build the right tools, and be the first users of these true AI agents in DeFi. So I'm super excited about that. If you're interested and you want to get more updates, we'll be releasing an announcement tomorrow. So I encourage you to subscribe and follow what's happening and be among the first to leverage this technology. Because if you do, you will end up making more money. Like it's it's just what's going to happen.
Who doesn't want that?
And who doesn't want that? So thanks.
Wow, amazing. Thank you for sharing this alpha here. You guys heard it first, so talk to the Almanak team afterwards. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise, Lars. And thank you, everyone, for listening. See you around.
Thanks, Zoe.